House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says there is still no deal to raise the debt ceiling. We're just 1 week away from June 1st, the day Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the U.S. could begin defaulting on the national debt. And the House is set to begin a week-long Memorial Day recess today. Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is outside the White House with Bharat Ramamurti. He's the Deputy Director of the National Economic Council and Advisor for Strategic Economic Communications. And she joins us now. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, and we're so glad to have Mr. Ramamurti here because, we've been waiting for details about the latest in these negotiations. What can you tell us right now, Bharat? We heard the House Speaker just a short time ago saying there are actually no talks slated for today right now.
That's right. I don't want to get into the details of the negotiations, but broadly speaking, it's imperative that we avoid a default. We just saw the news about a potential downgrade because of all the brinksmanship that's been taking place. We have members of the House Republican caucus openly admitting that this is about taking a hostage, about taking the global economy hostage in order to secure their partisan political aims. What the president has been trying to do now for many weeks is make clear that we're going to have to act on a bipartisan basis to avert a default, and that we're not going to go backwards on some of the economic progress that he's been making over the last 2 years. We're not going to go backwards on a number of the historic pieces of legislation that he secured in his first two years in office.
But how would you characterize the state of negotiations right now? We have at various times heard the House Speaker saying they're going terribly. Yesterday, he started saying that he was actually encouraged by the direction in which things were headed. Where do you believe that the talks stand right now?
Well, conversations are occurring. They're occurring in good faith. People are laying out what they think they can and can't accept. At the end of the day, whatever agreement is reached, it's going to be important for folks on both sides of the aisle to take a hard look at it and make clear that nobody's going to get everything that they want, and also make clear that a default simply is not a viable option here. A default would throw this economy into a recession. It would mean an immediate spike in interest rates. It would cause real economic harm to families across the country in red states and blue states. It would throw us backwards on some of the important investments that private companies are making in American manufacturing. It's something we can't afford to have, and it's something that Congress is going to need to act on a bipartisan basis to address as soon as possible.
Where do things stand when it comes to spending cuts? The latest offer that we heard about from the White House was that the president was willing to freeze spending at 2023 levels for 2 years. The House Speaker said not good enough. He's only going to agree to spending cuts that bring spending levels down below 2023 levels. Is the president willing to do that?
No, I mean, look, the president has made clear, first of all, in his own budget, he's talked about taking a balanced approach where we continue to invest in important programs that middle-class families rely upon, but also ask the very wealthy and big corporations to pay their fair share so we can continue to make those important investments while still bringing down the deficit by $3 trillion.
House Speaker says he's not going to go there when it comes to closing tax.
There are important priorities on our side, too, and when ultimately this deal is going to require Democratic support in both the House and the Senate, by nature, it's going to have to be a compromise. Not everybody's going to get everything that they want. A freeze in spending, in our view, as House Leader Jeffries has talked about, is inherently a compromise, given that Democrats want to move up in certain areas. And again, we think that that's a reasonable position. So again, we're hoping that there's going to be good faith conversations and a realization on all sides that not everybody's going to get everything that they want, but a default is not an acceptable outcome here.
Right, and we are definitely running short on time. So is that a red line for the president? He is not going to cut any further than a spending freeze for the next couple of years?
Well, I'm not going to do these kinds of negotiations on television, but what we're not going to do, of course, no, appreciate it. What we're not going to do is move backwards and threaten the economic progress that has been made in the last 2 years. Remember, more than 12 million jobs created under this president, more in 2 years than any four-year term before, and 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, real signs that the American economy is on the move and outpacing our leading competitors. We cannot put that in jeopardy because of the brinksmanship that House Republicans are engaging in here.
We're starting to hear some concern from Democrats who see the House Speaker, his top negotiators come out multiple times a day talking about what they will and they won't accept, arguing that the talks are going badly and that the White House isn't taking it seriously. And they don't hear that much from the president or from his top advisors. And they're saying, what if they're not holding the line in negotiations? How do we know that they are standing up for the things that are important to us? Talk about this decision to let the Republicans kind of come out and basically define the terms of this negotiation and not meet fire with fire and not come out and talk about the state of negotiations the same way that they are.
Well, look, the president's been really clear about what his goals and priorities are throughout this process. Number one, we need to avoid a default because that would do incredible economic harm to Americans across the country. Second, he's made clear we're not going to go backwards, like I said, on the economic progress that we have made. People want to pursue a different communication strategy. That's, of course, up to them. I'm happy to be here talking to you right now about what the White House position is in all of this. But ultimately, we have a responsibility to the American people, to the American economy, to the global economy, to avoid a default here and to do so in a way that doesn't threaten the economic progress that has been made over the last 2 years. That continues to be the president's goal here.
And, just very quickly, Fitch announced that it's actually putting U.S. credit on a watch list and might downgrade U.S. credit if there isn't a resolution soon. Is the White House in touch with these ratings agencies, kind of keeping them abreast of the state of play and letting them know, hey, hold off, don't downgrade our credit, we're getting close to a deal here?
Well, I can't speak to whether anybody in the White House has been in touch with Fitch. What I can say is that reflects the costs of the brinksmanship that we're engaged in right here, that the House Republicans are engaged in. Remember, 3 times under President Trump, House Republicans raised the debt ceiling without any controversy or fanfare, even as they were adding $8 trillion to the debt over those 4 years. I think it has been highly irresponsible to push it so close to the edge at this point, to threaten a global economic collapse unless they get their full partisan agenda. The president has been holding the line against those types of threats, and ultimately we're going to need bipartisan support in Congress to get this thing done.
Possibility of a deal by this weekend?
We'll see.
Bharat Ramamurti, the Deputy Director of the National Economic Council, one of the President's top economic advisors. Appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you.